Okay, Brian, tell us what 3% stands for.
All right. It's been said that 3% of the colonists stood up against the British during the Revolutionary War. It's kind of where we derive the 3% symbol and a name. The bulk of us, like I said, I can't speak for every group out there, but I can speak for 99% of them probably that believe in God, country, and family.
Yeah.
We're tired of our America eroding and being taken away from us. Everything from Second Amendment rights to God out of our countries and schools. Ever since you took away God and discipline out of our schools, trying to eliminate from society as a whole, things have just done nothing but deteriorate. There's no sense of values or morals or discipline anymore. We believe firmly in one thing, that when tyranny becomes law, rebellion is mandatory. We are the last line from this slipping away. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of patriots that are set aside and ready to do what is ever necessary to keep our America. And we will go to any lengths and do anything necessary to defend the Constitution and defend the American way of life.
This is Frank Simon with the rest of the news, and we have two special guests with us today. One is Ed Holloway, who's a retired state representative for 100 years or something. And the other is Brian Svoboda. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I met Brian downtown last Saturday. I wanted to find out what was going on with the people that want to shut down ICE. I was down there, and Brian was down there, and a number of other people. Tell me what you were doing down there.
We were down there to oppose the Abolish ICE movement that has been going on around the nation. We kind of found out that they were camped out down there. We've been driving by, found out they were camped down there. So got together with several other 3% groups, put out the word to rally. A lot of other groups showed up with us down there. Like I said, we want to abide by the laws on the books. To actually even bring up the statement of abolishing ICE is just so far-fetched.
Right.
It's not even a realistic request to abolish ICE and have open borders.
Well, ICE is part of the Homeland Security Department, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
They want to do away with some of the Homeland Security. Tell me what groups were down there.
I don't know if I should and I'll tell you why. I know Proud Boys and several other groups of Kentucki's. I will mention our group, American Action Force, AAF 3%. One reason why I don't really want to call out all the groups that were down there is because one particular gentleman that's part of another group, a little bit more southern Kentucky, one gentleman had his Facebook account hacked, and it was posted on Lexington ARA, the Lexington Antifa site, about this particular gentleman, about where he worked, and it was told to that union down there that he was at that rally. That gentleman got released from his union job, from a plumbing and pipe fitter's job.
Really?
So I'm kind of timid at naming some of the other groups without their own representation due to this particular individual losing his job over standing up for his rights in the Constitution.
Now, this is standard practice by the left that's coming in, and it's all part of this one world group. What they've been doing every step of the way, a form of anarchy. And it was part of this one world concept to bring it all together. And it goes back and use a biblical reference to it. To start anew, first you have to destroy the old. So anybody that speaks out against it becomes a threat to their movement. And the people that are involved in that protest that Dr. Simons was talking about going down to, they're the same people that have been involved in other protest movements. And it's like rent a mob. Who are these people? Where do they come from? Who paying for it? Are they workers or something? How can they be faked out like? And who pays the logistics of all that stuff?
On Saturday in particular, and one of the things that caught our attention about being there was they go by Louisville ARA or Lexington ARA. They're Antifa fascist groups that show up at these things. And John Brown Gun Club was also down there. They're part of what they call a redneck revolt movement.
Exactly.
We have seen numerous people of theirs at different locations, like I said, everywhere from Pikeville to Indianapolis. We will oppose them every time we hear or see their name. We will be there. We have no love for them whatsoever. It's what's got a lot of us started in this movement as 3%ers. Me, myself, I have over 18 members of my family that have served in the military, and I remember watching a particular video of an elderly man in a wheelchair, and he was getting spit on and taunted by Antifa members. And when I saw that, first thing I thought of was my grandfather and my family. And to think if somebody ever did something like that to one of my family members or any veteran that I'd be around. They've caused havoc and violence from everywhere, from Berkeley to Portland, and that's where they get away with the most of some of their antics because those areas are so liberal. That's something we're not going to deal with whatsoever over this way. That will not happen.
This is absolutely necessary that we take this kind of a stand because they're forcing people. I'm a member of the American Legion, and I've talked to some of the other members about some of the harassment that they've received. None of this thank you for service type stuff. They come off with a lot of other things, and they're trying to be intimidated, but it doesn't work with a veteran.
No.
They're going to stop it, and they're going to fight it. But all of this is being funded by guys like George Soros, who had just recently put $18 billion in a philosophical foundation that supports all of these organizations. The anti-conservative judicial appointments called the Alliance for Justice, the anti-education choice, they give the American Federation of Teachers, and this is where our children are being subjected to everything that removes God from anything connected with our society.
Absolutely.
Right.
And all these other liberal one-world concepts are the same people that were down there, were the same ones involved with stopping the border wall, and then they come back here, and then all the thing about these poor children being separated from their families. President Trump had already passed a thing saying, remove that it can't no longer do that. But then nobody tells anything about the Obama administration who had put it in place in the first place.
Exactly.
All of these things, they distort history and bring it to their level, and then everybody else that opposes anything that they're for is under attack. I could go on and on and on, but I'm very angry about it. I don't want to really change the subject. But Newt Gingrich, I got a letter from him, and he has produced a film called Rediscovering God in America. And he goes through all of the things that have been happening over the last 50 years. The radical judges have been appointed during the Obama administration, other previous times, and they're all trying to outlaw any reference to God, any religious symbol, any public prayer. For instance, public prayer at a high school graduation is no longer allowed. The Ten Commandments can't be displayed in anything public. The radical secretaries don't want our children to know the founding fathers built this nation on a faith in God. And worst of all, they're just about convinced an entire generation of Americans that even mentioning God in public is against the law. There's another one I really got upset about, was that during the Obama administration, our elected representatives in Congress were banned from wishing their constituents a Merry Christmas in their official holiday greetings. It goes on and on and on. The 10th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that crosses erected in public land along highways to commemorate slayed highway patrol officers were likewise unconstitutional. And a rally at an anti-God protesters in Washington. And Dr. Simon, this is the same thing we saw in Berkeley and other places. But theirs is, we're here, we're godless, and get used to it.
Yeah.
All of these things are going on, and they're being funded. The American Civil Liberties Union, which was an organization originally founded by the old American Communist Party, filing lawsuits and stopping people from saying anything. The freedom of speech is no longer allowed. And you've got the Center for American Progress and all of these things that these liberals are behind to cut not only God, but anybody else that speaks out in favor of pro-America. I could go on and I shouldn't.
Well, let me ask Brian one other thing. We were talking the other day, and I asked you why you were down there, and as I recall, you said something, I want to be able to tell my children that I stood against people that were trying to destroy the Constitution and freedom of speech and our liberties. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Our whole group, and I'll try to keep to our group in particular, I don't want to speak for every groups, but we all kind of come from the same background as far as this concerns. It's God, country, family. It's as simple as that. They try to do their best to tie us with race hate groups, so they tie us with the Klan. They love to fuel the hate to keep the people divided. Government is supposed to fear the people, not the people fearing the government. That's how we get a lot more done if it was like that. But as long as they keep us diversified and keep fueling the hate, and they're doing a great job of it, it's harder for Americans and people of all nationalities to come together and agree on anything. The way I look at it is kind of the way I look at Chicago. When Obama left Chicago, it's one of the highest murder rates in the nation, and he's caused the same destruction with the United States. He's literally left us all hating each other, whether it's skin color or what shows we watch or what we believe in. And we see a lot of what's going on today. I mean, even trying to tie pedophilia in with the LGBTQ community, which is absolutely a sickness. We have to make a stand somewhere at some time. It's slipping away every day. You turn on the news and look at things. It's just time to take a stand. The way we kind of see things is we are the final line before it comes to an all-out war.
You're exactly right. And it's imperative that each individual takes a responsibility to stand up and fight for everything we like. We've got a situation now where their lawsuits are being filed all over the country, and they're now filing to strip under God from the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. And they're winning these battles in these courtrooms across the nations.
And the bad part is if they go back and look at who was all involved with the Constitution and what they believe in, what it was written on, God was a very big part of the Constitution.
Well, right. This is the thing that Newt Gingrich was pointing out. And the reason he produced this film is that he was in Congress for a long time and a former Speaker of the House, and he did a program and it's a breathtaking walk through Washington, D.C., where the monuments, the memorials, the buildings are all a testimony to our founding fathers' faith in God, and a clear refute of the radical separatists that want to outlaw the nativity scene, the Ten Commandments, and remove under God from the Pledge of Allegiance. All of that is visible in every building in Washington. Everything was created by our founding fathers. And even Ben Franklin made it sure that every day that when Congress was meeting, they had a prayer, opening prayer. So all of these things have been pushed to the background, and children have been removed from that. And during our education process, and one of the organizations that George Soros and people like him are supporting are the American Federation of Teachers and others. They literally taken over the academic community, the media, and Hollywood. All three of those are working against the best interests of the American people and all the principles our founding fathers created, the most wonderful country that ever existed in the world.
Right.
Traditional values and morals are almost extinct nowadays.
Exactly.
It's almost an anything-goes type society.
Right.
And really, at the end of the day, that's not what they want. I can make this promise from myself. That's not what they want as a free-for-all society. Because when it comes down to a free-for-all society, we'll take that free-for-all mentality as well, and we'll do whatever we have to take our country back.
There's going to be another rally this Saturday at 1 p.m. down at, 7th and Chestnut?
Yeah, 7th and Broadway. The Constitutionalist groups, 3%ers, other affiliated groups will be coming in at the 6th and Cedar. Police have asked us to do that for them, so that way they can kind of keep things under control. But we've worked with LMPD on numerous events. One of the very first events that we ever showed up for was the one that Mayor Fisher had down at Muhammad Ali Center. And there was 4 of us, 3%ers with the AAF, and we stood against over 5,000 of them. We were spit on, called every name in the book. We were attacked the minute I put up my flag. That actually was on the news as well. Police ended up seeing what was going on and formed a wall and kept everybody separated because just about every member of our group is with concealed carry or open laws, and we can't let things get too out of hand. We do have the right to defend ourselves and will defend ourselves as we see fit as within the law. We will constantly, on every situation, we will oppose. We will oppose these Antifa groups who, as a matter of fact, have just had a bill entered in, the new HR bill about them receiving 15 years about unmasking. They've already been kind of labeled as a terrorist group inside the United States, and we've seen the harm that they have caused and destruction, and that's something that we will not tolerate whatsoever.
Well, these are all signs of the moral and social decay that's evident in our whole culture now, and it's one that has to be addressed. It's going to be a full-time job on the part of every American.
It is, especially when you got your mayor. Your mayor condones actions like this and groups like this. This group Antifa and some Black Lives Matter, by far not all, these groups promote more violence in a month than the Klan has in the last 10 years.
Right.
And why they would condone something of this nature, any form of hate or any form of violence of that nature upon anybody.
Look at Jefferson County. This is the problem I have, and one I'm so angry and some of the hostility I feel is that I grew up in this community. I'm over 80 now, and I've seen it. And this was not the country I was born in. It was not the country I grew up in.
Right.
And none of these things are true today. And as you look at this situation, like in Jefferson County, since the merger, we've had over 1,000 fatalities of gunshots. Over 3,000 people have been wounded, treated in our hospitals, most of which were paid for by the taxpayers, some of which were internal intensive care that cost thousands of dollars a day. And we're paying for all of this. And we as taxpayers that are hardworking, pay our taxes, and all of them try to raise our family and take care of our people, at the same time, all of these forces are working against us. And unless we take it upon ourselves to become more informed and to talk with our legislative bodies, to talk with our elected officials, to talk with our ministers, and churches have been intimidated to the point that they're going to lose their tax status if they say anything about politics or anything at all. All of those things have to be confronted, and it's every individual's responsibility.
Absolutely. It's simply standing up for what is right. We got the 18th murder rate in the nation, Louisville does at this point. We care more about bike lanes than we do lives of any sort, of any color. And one of the things we stand for that really drives us and gets us upset is we do this Abolish ICE, open borders. The biggest thing we ask for, what was it, 1 out of every 5 JPS students goes without food or is homeless. The veteran situation, the disabled veterans that's going on, and the homeless that are in Louisville, it's skyrocketed over the last 6 months. You get off at Jefferson Street or go anywhere off 3rd Street, downtown 3rd and Southern Parkway, there's constant 24-hour homeless down there. Our biggest thing is take care of Americans first.
Right.
Take care of our children first. Take care of our veterans first. Now, if that was taken care of, and then we can get to the illegal immigrants and help them order them out, I would be absolutely fine with that. But we're just simply not taking care of our own America.
Right.
We're creating a worse situation. If we cannot take care of our own, how are we going to take care of our others?
Now, do you think George Soros brought all these people in? These Occupy.
Oh, yeah.
They're funded, definitely. They're on Craigslist all the time for filling out jobs.
You can go back to the Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
Coming down the line, and then he's the number one financer behind the Black Lives Matters and all these other things.
They donate money to so many different groups, it's almost impossible to trace that money trail all the way back to him. So many people affiliated with the demise of America, and the Peter Strzok thing that was on yesterday, that was a perfect example.
Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Horowitz, did Lisa Page work on the Hillary email investigation?
She did. She indicated she and Mr. Strzok were having a relationship and they were using the phone to communicate with each other for that purpose.
To cover up the affair, to keep their spouses from knowing?
Yeah. She had used the phone to keep this information from her spouses, and this was an example of that.
And in this text, she said she was coaching Strzok, basically, on what to tell his wife, correct?
Correct.
So she was telling him how to lie. She was using a government phone, coaching him on how to lie, and using the pretext of this investigation to carry out this affair with her coworker. So she coached her coworker and lover on how to lie to his wife, used government resources to do it, in the pretext of this investigation, to conceal what they both knew was immoral behavior. Your report's really good at uncovering bias. I want to talk about some bias that has been uncovered by your report that's not been covered in the news. I want to read you 5 texts. March 12, 2016, Page forwarded an article about a conservative candidate in Texas stating, "What the is wrong with these people?" Strzok replied, "That Texas article is depressing as hell, but answers how we could end up with Trump as president." August 26, 2016, Strzok sends to Page, "Just went to Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support." August 29, 2016, Agent 5 to Agent 1, "I would rather have brunch with Trump and a bunch of his supporters like the ones from Ohio that are retarded." October 28, 2016, Agent 5 lists things that he's sick of. and he lists on there the average American public. And then on November 9th, 2016, unnamed FBI employee says Trump supporters are all poor to middle class, uneducated, lazy POS. We know what that stands for. That think he will magically grant them jobs for doing nothing. They probably didn't watch the debates and aren't fully educated on his policies. This is bias of the FBI at the top level. I'm not saying it's a field agent level. They probably more reflect the American people. But at the top, highest, most level, you have a bias against the American people. And this terrifies the average worker who's paying their salary with their tax dollars. Mr. Horowitz, James Comey, Director of the FBI, Andy McCabe, Deputy Director, Chief of Staff Jim Rubicki, General Counsel Jim Baker, FBI Counsel Lisa Page, and Deputy Head of Counterintelligence Peter Strzok. These were 6 important people at the FBI. Is that right?
Correct.
And they were the key players on the Clinton investigation and on the Russian investigation, correct?
They were certainly important on both.
Has Mr. Comey been fired?
Yes.
Has Mr. McCabe been fired?
Yes.
Did Mr. McCabe lie under oath, according to your report?
In our view, yes.
Yeah. Is there a criminal referral for Mr. McCabe?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Has Mr. Rubicki left the FBI?
Yes.
Has General Counsel Jim Baker left the FBI?
Yes.
Was he removed from his position prior to leaving the FBI?
I'm not sure of that.
Has Lisa Page left the FBI?
Yes.
Was she reassigned prior to leaving the FBI?
I believe so.
And has Peter Strzok been removed from his position as Deputy Head of Counterintelligence?
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz, you've been in the DOJ for 10 years. You've been Inspector General for 6 years. You're Chief of all the Inspector Generals. Have you ever seen anything like this at any other federal agency in your time in the federal government? 6 of the top people fired, demoted, reassigned, or left?
Yes, this is
I've been in this town 11 and a half years. I've never seen anything like this. Even the IRS scandal didn't come close.
Where the corruption is at the top and how it bleeds down to the bottom.
Right.
If you cannot trust your justice system from the DOJ to the CIA to the FBI, we are all in bad shape.
That's right. That's right.
And I've talked with several retired FBI agents who are just livid about what's happened to the organization they served their whole career in serving American people in the political process.
Well, that was an embarrassment to the FBI yesterday.
And it really is. And they're just livid.
So you hadn't interviewed anyone. You're investigating this alleged Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. You're the lead investigator. You originated the investigation. You're the point of contact. You drafted the document. Lisa Page wrote, maybe you're meant to protect the country from that menace. And you responded, I can protect the country at many levels. We're not even a week into an investigation that you originated, approved, were the contact for. You hadn't interviewed a single solitary soul until August 11th, and you're already promising to protect the country from that menace, Donald Trump. And then on August the 8th, you still hadn't interviewed anyone, colleague Lisa Page. Trump's not ever going to become president, right? And you replied, no, he's not. We'll stop it.
As I understand this, Occupy ICE didn't even get a permit for all of these rallies they're having down there.
No, they didn't have a permit, but the mayor came out and said, you're welcome here as long as you want. Now, the biggest problem we had with that was just in wintertime, you were tearing down homeless people's tents and kicking them off the sidewalk.
Exactly.
At least these people had a legitimate, half-legitimate reason to have a tent up in the first place by being homeless, not inviting hate groups to Louisville and welcoming them to stay and protest. Right. We have a major problem with that. We're done being lackadaisical. We're done sitting on the sidelines. If you want to build this up to the level that you're building it up, we will gladly give it back to you. We will do everything within the law and the powers of law. Because when you can sit and pick and choose what groups that you're going to let on the sidewalk or who you're going to bend the laws for, then you're under tyranny. And tyranny, when there is tyranny, it is our law to rebel. We are going to rebel to the fullest extent.
If you or I had a rally, refused to get a permit, we would be in the clinker right away.
Oh, yeah. Don't let me come out and promote God or something good to go on in society.
And the other thing is, they were blocking the sidewalk. Now, if you or I had a rally and blocked the sidewalk, we would be in big trouble.
We would be arrested automatically and hauled away.
Yeah.
And it's
but these
simple.
guys, because of Mayor Fisher and his administration, they're allowed to get away with anything.
Because their counterparts have infiltrated government at every level. The bureaucracy and the people who administer these laws are part of the movement.
Fisher has Angela Leet running against him in November.
He's got a problem with her.
Yeah.
He's got a problem with her.
We don't have to sit there and look the other way and let them pick and choose the laws they're going to enforce and not enforce. We need to think about getting some people in mayor's office that will be fair to everybody.
We actually was at the Tea Party get-together out in St. Matthews. Some of our group was AAF. And we met Angela Leet and Glisson.
Yeah, Glisson, yeah.
We met both of them. One's trying for Yarmouth spot and one's trying for Fisher spot. We promote both of them very heavily. Both are women. Both had a very good message to come across. We back both of them 110%. What Yarmouth was doing at March, we were also at March for Our Lives. We kind of interrupted their parade. We had some things to say to Yarmouth. They didn't like it very much, but we definitely had some issues with Yarmouth. And Yarmouth's the same way. He's voted with Nancy Pelosi 97% of the time. And if you can't think for yourself, you don't need to be up there anyway.
Well, it's time for a change.
Absolutely.
We don't have to have these left-wingers running our city. And like you say, all the murders. They're not going to enforce the laws. They're not going to require a permit from George Soros's group. They don't care whether they block the sidewalk or not. And like you say, they kind of pick and choose what laws they want to enforce. That's a lot of baloney. It's time to get responsible people as mayor, U.S. Congress.
And one of the things that people have to do is take an active part in the political process to make sure that not only themselves, but their families and other friends all vote. There's a large percentage of people that are registered that don't even bother to vote.
Yeah.
And when you look at some of the returns in some of these areas, for example, I did some studies in the West End. There were precincts in the West End that had a higher vote than the U.S. Census said the population of that area. All of these things that people, there's nobody that volunteers to go as a challenger. It's that old thing about vote early, vote often, and all these kind of things are going on. We need to be aware of that and make sure that there's enough people that don't bother to vote to turn out some of these elections and make it a winner for the conservative movement.
Our rights are being taken away and gone after every day. Our way of life with God and country has been taken away every day. It's slipping by. This is it. It's time for people to get off their couches and get active.
Absolutely.
Through the grapevine, I got 8 kids I got to answer to one day that all look in the eye. I'm not saying I didn't do nothing. I'm not saying I set aside and let this happen to them. That'll never happen.
We've reached a point in this country where the problems of our structure is worse than it was under the British rule that created the American Revolution in the first place.
We're about out of time. We're going to have to terminate it. We appreciate Brian Svoboda with the 3%, Ed Holloway, former state representative, and we appreciate you being on the program and watching the program. And with God's help, we're going to turn this around. Thank you very much.